All right, so get this. We're diving into cooperation today, but with a twist. We always think about needing like a moral compass to cooperate, right? Like helping each other because it's the right thing to do. But what if I told you that cooperation can happen without morality?
It sounds kind of crazy, right?
Mm.
But it's true when you look at it through science and game theory.
Yeah, and that's exactly what today's source is all about.
Yeah.
Biontos Hall explores this. They use the prisoner's dilemma to figure out why people choose to cooperate or, totally backstab each other.
The prisoner's dilemma is perfect for this. It gets rid of all the messy human emotions and boils it down to just cooperate or betray. Simple.
Okay, so imagine two criminals, they get arrested.
Yeah.
Right? They're in separate cells, can't talk, and they have to make a choice. Either confess to the crime, which means betraying their partner, or stay silent and cooperate. Tough spot. But here's the thing. The consequences depend on what both of them choose.
Right. So if both stay silent and cooperate, they get a lighter sentence, like maybe a year each. But if one confesses, betrays the other, and the other stays silent, the betrayer walks free. The one who cooperated gets 5 years, though.
Ouch. That's rough. So what happens if they both betray each other?
Then it's worse for both of them than if they'd cooperated. Like they each get 4 years. So you see, in a single round, betraying your partner always seems safer, even though cooperation could be better for both.
So even if I think my partner might stay quiet, I should probably betray them just in case, right?
Exactly. Because if you cooperate and they betray you, that's the worst possible outcome. It's counterintuitive, but in a single round prisoner's dilemma, the most rational choice is to betray.
It's like we're programmed to be suspicious. But it gets even more interesting when you play this game multiple times.
You got it. This is the repeated prisoner's dilemma. If they know how many times they'll play betrayal, still makes sense. But when the number of rounds is unknown, things change.
Now they got to think long term.
Yeah.
The source talks about this awesome experiment by Robert Axelrod. He basically ran a tournament of strategies for the repeated prisoner's dilemma.
Algorithm battle. He asked experts from everywhere to submit their strategies and then made them compete in a computer simulation to see which would win over many rounds.
And the winner was, drumroll, tit for tat. It's crazy how simple but powerful this strategy is.
Tit for tat starts with cooperation and then just mirrors what the opponent does. They cooperate, you cooperate. They betray, you betray. Simple but genius.
So even though tit for tat involves betrayal, it actually pushes for cooperation in the long run because it creates a pattern of give and take, right?
Exactly. It's like saying, I'm down to work with you, but I'm not going to let you walk all over me. This is where the Force brings up that idea of cooperation without morality.
Because they're not being nice out of the goodness of their hearts. They cooperate because it's the best strategy for them over time.
Exactly. The repeated game, plus tit for tat, shows that cooperation can just happen because it works best over time. You don't have to assume people are good or moral to explain why they cooperate.
So how does this all play out in real life? Can we see tit for tat happening in our daily routine?
Oh, totally. Think about it. Have you ever cooperated with someone, even a stranger, without really thinking about why? Maybe holding a door open or letting someone merge in traffic?
You know what? Yeah. We make these little decisions to cooperate all the time, even when there's no guarantee of a moral reward. It's interesting.
And these small acts could be influenced by this tit-for-tat idea.
Fascinating. The source even brings up some proverbs that might reflect this. Onjo, good do will be rewarded with good, evil with evil. Ondo, eye for an eye. And diondo tu, a drop of water given shall be repaid by a gushing spring.
They all highlight that idea of reciprocity that's in tit-for-tat. It makes you wonder if these societal rules evolve from those principles of repeated interactions and the benefits of long-term cooperation.
It's like our societies learn to cooperate, not necessarily because we're all inherently good, but because cooperation just plain works.
Exactly. And that can be really freeing. We don't need to rely on assumptions about inherent goodness or strict moral codes. Instead, we can create systems and environments that actually encourage people to cooperate.
Instead of trying to make people better, we can design systems that make cooperation the best choice.
Precisely. This could apply to so many things, from traffic laws to business contracts. Those systems encourage cooperation by making it in everyone's best interest to work together.
Mind-blowing stuff. It's a whole new way of looking at things. So zooming out, what does this all mean? If cooperation can exist without morality, how does that change how we understand trust and ethics?
The million-dollar question. It forces us to rethink our assumptions. Maybe trust isn't just about inherent goodness, but about patterns of behavior that we can predict.
So trust is built on the expectation that someone will act a certain way, not because they're good, but because it's in their best interest.
You got it. And that has huge implications for how we approach social interactions, build institutions, and design policies.
This has been eye-opening. It's amazing how a simple game theory scenario can lead to such huge insights about people.
It shows how powerful scientific analysis is. By breaking down cooperation into its simplest parts, we can understand what drives it.
For our listeners, we'll leave you with a question to think about. If cooperation doesn't need morality, how does that change how we think about trust and ethics in society?
It makes us rethink our assumptions and explore new possibilities. Maybe by understanding the strategy behind cooperation, we can find new ways to build a more collaborative world.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into cooperation.
It makes you think about how, societal norms and even legal systems develop to encourage cooperation on a bigger scale.
Right, like those proverbs we were talking about. It's like they're describing tit for tat in action.
Totally. Good will be rewarded with good, evil with evil. It's a classic. It suggests that cooperating like doing good will probably be met with more cooperation in return, while acting selfishly doing evil will probably lead to bad consequences.
It's basically, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours, but if you bite me, watch out.
That's a great way to put it. And this whole reciprocal thinking thing, it's everywhere. From simple stuff like holding the door for someone to really complex things like international trade agreements.
So instead of just relying on people to be good, we create systems that make cooperation the most logical choice.
Exactly. Think about traffic laws. We don't just hope everyone will be a perfect driver because they're nice. We have rules and consequences to encourage safe and cooperative driving.
So we're setting up a system where everyone wins when they cooperate.
Exactly. That's what's so cool about understanding cooperation this way. It opens up possibilities for designing better systems, whether it's in our personal relationships or communities or even globally.
This makes me think about how we always talk about morality and ethics as the foundation of cooperation. But maybe it's more of a two-way street.
You might be onto something there. Perhaps those moral codes actually evolved alongside our understanding of how beneficial cooperation is.
So it's not just that we cooperate because it's the right thing to do, but our ideas of what's right are shaped by the benefits of cooperating over time.
That's a fascinating thought. It's a chicken or the egg thing. Did morality come first and then lead to cooperation, or did cooperation shape our sense of morality?
This is making my head spin, but in a good way. So where do we go from here? What can we do with this new understanding of cooperation?
I think the biggest takeaway is that it gives us a new way to think about how to create more cooperative environments. Instead of just appealing to people's better nature, we can create systems that make cooperation the most strategic and rewarding choice.
So it's about being smart about how we design those systems.
Absolutely. And that means transparency, clear communication, and making sure the rewards for cooperating are bigger than the potential benefits of going solo.
I can see how this would apply to so many things, from negotiating deals to resolving conflicts to even just figuring out chores with roommates.
Exactly. It's about understanding that cooperation isn't just some idealistic thing, but a fundamental part of being human that we can understand and use to make things better for everyone.
This has been a mind-bending deep dive.
I agree. It shows how even complex social stuff can be broken down and understood with science.
And for our listeners, we hope this gave you a new way to look at how cooperation works and how we can all create a more cooperative world. So we've been diving deep into this idea of cooperation emerging, even without morality. But where do we go from here? Like, how can we actually use this knowledge?
That's the key question, right? It's not just about understanding the theory. It's about applying it. And I think one of the most important takeaways is this. If we let go of the idea that everyone needs to be inherently good to cooperate, then maybe we can focus on creating systems where cooperation is the most logical and beneficial choice.
So instead of just hoping people will do the right thing, we create environments where doing the right thing also happens to be the smartest thing for them.
Exactly. It's about aligning self-interest with the collective good.
This is making me rethink things like laws and social norms. Maybe they're not just about enforcing morality, but about setting up a framework where cooperation benefits everyone involved.
Think about it. Take traffic laws. We don't just trust that everyone will be a perfect driver out of the goodness of their hearts.
Right.
We have rules and consequences to make sure that following those rules, basically cooperating with the system, is the best option for everyone on the road.
It's like a giant tit for tat on the highways.
That's right.
If you follow the rules, you benefit. If you break them well, you face the music.
Exactly. And it's not just traffic laws. This applies to so many things. Business contracts that encourage fair play, international agreements that promote global cooperation, they all tap into this idea.
So we're not just relying on people to be good, but we're designing systems that make cooperation the best strategy.
Right. And that can lead to a more harmonious and productive society.
This whole deep dive has been amazing. It's incredible how a simple game theory idea like the prisoner's dilemma can unlock so much about human behavior and cooperation.
It really shows how science can shed light on even the most complex parts of our social world.
And for our listeners, we hope this has sparked some new ideas about how cooperation works and how we can all work together to build a better world. Thanks for joining us on this journey.